After this video, you will never have to second guess your pricing ever again. You'll also be able to create your own price book based on your cost and the profits that you want. I have spent tens of thousands of dollars to learn these pricing strategies. I've put them in my business. They've helped me scale to over 7 figures and get the profitability that I want. I use the price book in this in my company every single day. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. You're going to be able to price your HVAC jobs like an expert. Let's get right into it. Okay, first thing, and this is not a super long video, but I do want to make sure you get all the good info. The first thing we have to understand is our pricing is not based on our competitors, and it is not based on our market. So go ahead and get that completely out of your head. It's a lie that I used to believe. It's not true. Your prices are based on your cost. So don't go in Facebook groups asking people how much would you charge for this, or asking your friends how much would you charge for this, or is this a good price? I'm going to show you exactly what it's based on. It's based on your numbers. Let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to add up all of your cost. We need to find out exactly how much you're spending every year so that we can make sure our prices make up for that. So the very first step in pricing is to add up your cost. Let's start to do that using this example. Okay, now I'm going to show a big company and a one man in a truck or one man in a van company. All right, so the owner's salary, you're going to put that here. Okay, let's say, for example, you want to pay yourself $100,000. Okay, oh, it's $1 million. Okay, you want to pay yourself $100,000. Okay, let's say that you want to pay yourself $100,000. Okay, so we're going to put that there. $100,000. That's your salary. All right. Let's say you have an office worker. They're $50,000. So you're going to add up all your costs for the year. How much does it cost you every year? All right. How much in gas do you spend per year? I have an example here. And don't get caught up in these numbers that I'm putting here. I'm just putting numbers in. I'm making them up off the top of my head. You're going to have to add up all of your costs. You can do that on a piece of paper, and you can use your calculator. All right. Now, how much are your truck payments per year? So this here is $6,000. This is assuming a truck payment of $500 per month. In this example, this company would have 3 trucks, $500 per month, $6,000 a year each. All right. Merchant fees. You have to add up every single thing you pay for in your company. Workers' comp insurance, liability insurance, cable. How much is your cell phone? Do you use a cell phone for work? Do you use a house phone for work? I hope not. Okay. How much is the tax person? The person does your taxes. Do you use House Call Pro? House Call Pro is probably not $1,500 per year. Let's go ahead and add, I'm just going to make something up here and say $10,000. Okay. Service Titan, Jobber, whatever. Doesn't matter, right? Okay, so we're not going to stay on this particular part forever. You're going to add up everything that you can possibly think of that you spend every year, and that is going to give you a total amount. Okay, we're going to get to that in a second. Now, on your paper that you're adding up, I want you to put off to the side the highest paid technician in your company. Let's say the highest paid technician is $100,000. You may have a couple other technicians, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. Don't worry about that. Put the highest paid one here. So this example, the highest paid tech is $100,000, and they have a helper in the truck with that technician, $40,000. All right, if you're a one-man company, delete this. Don't write down your highest paid tech, obviously, because you don't have one. You are the highest paid tech. So you're not going to think about that. In that case, you're just going to have your owner's salary plus all of your expenses. All right. Now, what that is going to do is going to take, you're going to have all of your overhead added up. It's going to give you a number, all of your expenses. In this example, the overhead is $232,000. This is why I say, small companies, when I'm coaching businesses in my consultancy, and small companies say, well, I don't have an overhead. Big companies have overhead. You do have an overhead. First off, your salary is an overhead, and you do have insurance, and you do have a truck payment, and you do have software. You would be surprised how much overhead you actually have. In this example, if I take the office personnel off completely, we still have fuel. Maybe we could take it down a little bit. We may have one truck payment. We may have a small amount of merchant fees. Workers' comp insurance may be less. We still have an overhead of $157,000. Okay? All right. So let's put this back here. All right. So owner's salary, office person, truck payments, insurance, all of that is going to give you this number here. So this is a number for this example company. $232,800. This is the amount of money that you are spending every single year. You have to make that money back. And not only do you have to make that money back, no one wants to break even. You want to make that back with profit. Because every year after you pay yourself, after you pay your expenses, if you have employees, after you pay your employees, you don't want to have gotten a salary and then there's $0 in the bank. You want some profit there. Every year you want a chunk of money to be there so that you can reinvest that money next year. Maybe you want to hire another technician. Maybe you want to buy a building. Maybe you just want to get a better truck. Maybe you want to wrap your trucks. Whatever you want to do, you have to have a profit. So we're going to add a profit to this number. I like to take my expenses and divide by 0.5. I want to make a 50% margin. All right. And we'll get more into that in the Know Your Numbers video. This is not a Know Your Numbers video. This is just teaching you how to price your jobs. Okay. So step one, we've already done step one. Add up all of your expenses and your salary. Okay. That'll give you a number. Then you're going to take that number and you're going to put a profit margin on it. I put a 50% profit margin, which brings us to, we're spending in this example $232,800. We need to make that original $232,800 that we spent with margin. So we need to make this year $465,600. This is just an example. Your company may be 5 million, 10 million, 12 million. You may be at 1 million. Don't worry about the examples here, okay? You have your paper and you added your expenses and you're going to divide that by 0.5 and that's going to give you your desired 50% profit margin. Try to stick with that, okay? All right. We need to estimate a tax, right? So I normally try to estimate 35% tax. So I'm going to add that to the money that I need to make because that's an expense. Once I add that, that is going to give us another number, okay? All right. So let's get to this. Let's figure this out. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is the biggest thing that confuses people about pricing. This is why I made this document, because when I'm coaching clients, I don't want them to necessarily have to be perfect pricing experts and figure out all the terminology and all that. I just want them to be able to make their price very quickly so they can start charging that proper money, right? That's why I made this document. Oh, but here's the thing most people don't understand. Let's say you need to make $465,600 in order to make all your expenses back, pay yourself, and have a little money at the end of the year, right? $465,000. Now, how many hours a year do we have to make that money? We're going to take the available hours. We're going to divide the total number we need divided by the available hours, and that's going to tell us how much we need to charge per hour to get this amount of money a year, all right? So let's figure that out. How many hours are available to work in a year? If you work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 12 months, so you work 40-hour weeks all year, that is 2,000 hours. So you have 2,000 hours to make $465,000 according to this example. All we're going to do is take the money we need to make and divide it by the 2,000 hours that's available. But here's the problem. There are not actually 2,000 hours available because you are not honestly going to work every single day, 8 hours a day. Why? Well, you're probably not going to work on Christmas. That's 8 hours of that 2,000 gone. You're probably not going to work on Thanksgiving. That's another 8 hours gone. The day before Thanksgiving, you would like to take that off. The day before Christmas, you would like to take that off. You want to take your anniversary off, your birthday. Hey, you want to take a 2-week vacation. You deserve it. This is starting to take the 2,000 hours off of the available and is starting to show you exactly how many real hours you have available. And to go even further, during some of these 8-hour work days, you have to pick up parts at the supply house. You have to go to the bank. You have to get gas. You have to clean your truck. You have to stock your truck. Guess what? You have a season that's slower than the summertime. And this is mainly for HVAC, heating and cooling, but this works in electrical. There's a slow season. This works in lawn care. There's a slow season. All of these things shrink the amount of time you're realistically going to work. And this time is called window time. The average time that you're driving around if you're doing service is 4 hours of that day you're working on an actual system for a customer, and the other 4 hours you're driving back and forth or buying materials. That means out of that 2,000 hours, you're available about 50% of those hours. So having said that, you're going to take the total amount that you need to make a year and divide by 1,000. And that's going to tell you how much you need to charge every single hour to make your money and make your profit. It really is simple math. All right. Now, take a look at this. So this is 1,000 hours. We're dividing the total amount that we need to make divided by the 1,000. And we're going to put how many trucks we have on the road, right? So if you have 3 trucks on the road, you get to divide the total amount that you need to make across all 3 trucks, right? If you have 1 truck on the road, you're a one-man show, you need to make all of the money by yourself, all right? Now, your expenses are lower. They're not nothing, but they're lower. So even though you're a one-man show, you need to make all the money yourself. You don't have as many expenses, so your hourly rate will be a little bit lower than if someone has huge expenses. But they normally are around the same, okay? So in this example, this company has their highest paid tech at $100K. They have a helper in the truck at $40K, and they have $400,000 of expenses. We're going to take that amount of money divided by 1,000 hours, divided by 3. You can do this with your calculator. That is going to give you how much you need to charge. This example, $351 an hour. All right. Let's go to the one-man show. All we're going to do on the one-man show is we're going to take away the highest paid tech and the helper. That is going to give us $155 an hour. Right? So even if you're a one-man show, you can't charge $50 an hour, $75 an hour. Do the math yourself, okay? If you want to make it easy, this document is available. The link is in the description. You can just plug them in. It'll do the math for you, all right? I've used this document hundreds of times with clients, also in my company. All right, let's put this back. All right, so what do we do with this here? Okay, I know my hourly rate. What do I do now? Okay, the first thing I always tell clients is, the first thing is get comfortable with the number. It's cold, hard math. It doesn't matter if you think it's too much money. It doesn't matter if you think no one's going to spend that much. It's how much you need to charge based on your expenses that you put in there. So you either need to start cutting some expenses or lowering your pay, which I don't recommend because you deserve the pay, right? Or you need to get comfortable and charge the money that you need to charge. And I have a whole pricing course available that tells you how to get higher prices. There's a way to do it. There's a process, right? But that's another video. If you're interested in that, you can purchase our pricing course. I'll put a list to all the courses also and a list to the document in the description. All right, so we got our hourly rate. What now? All right, this is what is called a price calculator. Now, I'm going to show you how to make your entire pricing book with every single thing, every line item, whether it's a capacitor change, a compressor change, a coil change, adding refrigerant. You can even use this if you have a lawn care company, hedging bushes, or a Christmas lights company. It doesn't matter, okay? I'm going to show you that in the next step. But right now, this is something, once you get your hourly rate, you can create something like this, or you can purchase this document. Doesn't matter, right? This is how this works. We have your hourly rate. I just showed you the 51 in this example. That's every hour. Now, let's say, for example, you're doing a job that takes 1 hour, okay? How much an hour are you going to charge that customer? 51 in this example. All right, but you have materials. So what you need to do is you're always going to take your materials and you're going to make sure that at least 40% of that is covered in materials, right? So if I charge $100, I don't want my materials to be more than $40 or $50 at the most, right? So you have to mark up your materials at a 50% profit margin, okay? This isn't a pricing strategy video, so I'm not going to make it super long, okay? So what I do is I take my expenses at a 50% profit margin. If you have a pen, write this down. To get a 50% profit margin, you take how much something cost you if you're buying a compressor and you divide that number by 0.5. That'll tell you how much you need to charge that customer, okay? This is if you want to make the money that you need to make. And then you're going to add that number to your hourly rate. So in this example, this is going to be 100. That's how much this part is going to be, divided by 0.5 plus the 1 hour hourly rate. Do you get it? You get it? Okay. Let's say your materials are $250 and it's going to take you 2 hours. You are going to take your hourly rate times 2, the hourly rate you figured out times 2, and your material cost divided by 0.5. And you're just going to add those together. That is going to give you the perfect price. That's going to cover all of your overhead, and it's going to put a profit margin. So when you take the money from that job, let's say you do a 3-hour job, your materials are $250. You charge that customer $1,550. You get that money, you deposit it in the bank. You're going to be able to pay all your expenses. You're going to pay your salary, and you're going to have 30% profit margin to keep in the bank. That's how I do it. So if you use the numbers that I'm giving you, or if you use this document, your pricing will be fine. All right. Now, you want to have something like this to print up and put in your truck. So you don't have to do the math all the time. You can just call the supply house. Hey, how much is this? And they say, oh, $1,500 out the door. And you say, thank you. You hang up. You go to this document. You go on $1,500. You find out how long it's going to take, 3 hours. Boom. You tell the customer that'll be $3,054. You did it in a heartbeat. You're making yourself faster. Print this up. Put it in your truck. Done. Okay. This is getting the hourly rate from the first page. Okay. Now, your price book. I get asked this all the time, and I'm in the Facebook groups all the time, and I see so many questions. How much would you guys charge to change a motor? How much would you guys charge to do this? How much would you charge to do this? It's very simple. What you're going to do, as I just showed, once you know your hourly rate, and that's your hourly rate, right? Once I do mine, I know this is Michael's hourly rate. This could be Bill's hourly rate. It's based on your overhead because you calculated it. Once you get your hourly rate, you're just going to take your materials. You're going to divide the materials by 0.5. For example, your materials are $100. $100 divided by 0.5 is $200. If it takes you an hour and your hourly rate is $200, the price for that job is $400. You will be covered because you put your expenses in and you know you'll be covered. Okay? Now, a little pro tip, if it takes you an hour to do something, you want to price it at 1.5 hours, just so you don't have to rush. If anything goes wrong, you'll always be covered. Okay, but if you want to make a price book and you want to upload that into House Call Pro or Service Titan or whatever, then what you can do is you're going to write down every single task, every repair that you do in your company, and you're going to assign that job a certain amount of time. So I know I can change a compressor in 3 hours. So I'm going to put compressor change 3 hours. As a matter of fact, I have it on this price book, compressor change, remove and replace 1.5 to 3 ton. I've got 3.5 hours. A compressor cost me $734. Actually, now it probably costs a lot more than that. All right, so $1,000 marked up by 0.5 is $2,000. Now we're going to add that $2,000 times 3.3. And we're going to end up with a price to change a compressor, $3,158. That's to buy the compressor, pay my salary, pay my technician's salary, and have money left in the bank from that job to pay my taxes and to reinvest in the company. That's what you got to charge. It doesn't matter how we feel. Women lie, men lie, numbers don't lie. I've created this for my company so that my technicians can have this price book. They don't have to call me all the time, and I don't want to be a nuisance to them, so I don't want them to have to feel like they always got to call me in every little thing. All they have to do is open up the book, find something, let's say capacitor, boom, capacitor. How much is a capacitor? Cost the company $20, marked up $40. How long does it take? 1 hour. Okay, before you try to crucify me, remember, you're going to the truck, You're going back to the condenser. You're putting the capacitor on. You're not just going to turn it on, oh, it made the sound and go charge them. That's going to be a callback. So you have to add time because you're going to put probes on. You're going to check the refrigerant. You're going to go check the temperatures coming out. You're going to check the pressures. You're going to check a lot of things because you're doing a service to your customer. You don't want a callback. So it takes you about an hour to change the capacitor and walk around and check everything, then talk to the customer, explain it to them. How much is a capacitor? In this case, it's $391. All right. Now, if you say, well, I don't want to charge for an hour, it takes me 20 minutes, it's your prerogative. Take your capacitor, mark it up by whatever you want. I use 0.5, and then add half of your hourly rate. In this example, capacitor, $215. So take every single task, find out how much the part cost, divide it by 0.5, find out how many hours it's going to take you, take your hourly rate that's built on your overhead, multiply that how many hours, and add the two, and then write that. Compressor, this much. And then write all of it down, and then upload that into whatever CRM you use. That way when you're on the jobs, it's already done. Boom. Oh, I'm at a compressor job. Boom. Evaporator coil. Boom. Right? There's going to be some things that are not going to be in your price book. That's why you want to have a formula like this. Hopefully this helps you understand how to make your prices. Really, the backbone to setting your price is knowing your cost. Going back and explaining, just super simple, add up all of your overhead, including your salary. Don't forget that. Take that number, divide that by the amount of hours available. It's usually 1,000. I have spent over $30,000 learning all of this stuff in personal coaching. It's usually about 1,000 hours. That will give you your hourly rate. Charge that hourly rate. If you feel like you can't or no one's going to buy, I highly encourage you to take my pricing course. It'll teach you how to sell at higher prices. Not because we want to charge people more, but we're going around, we're making a difference in society. We need to be paid and we need to not be struggling, because why own a business if you're going to be struggling? Okay, thanks for watching. I hope you learned. The link to this document is in the description. If you feel like you don't want to do all the math on a paper, you just want to plug your numbers in, it's available. The link is in the description. If you have any questions, reach out to me in the comments.